Find yourself a booth, order up a cold one. This is the Springbar.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Spring Bar. Glad to have you here. I am Florida Mike, and today the Spring Bar is in Miami. Actually, not really, but we'll discuss my trip down there for the Bulova 150 celebration and the premiere of the documentary America Telling Time. Also, Joe had some time with the Yema Yachtingraf, and we're going to get his thoughts on that one. We have some watch news and the GPHG winners have been announced, so we'll tell you which of our picks won. Also, new watches. I don't have any new watches, but Joe has enough to take care of both of us, so we'll get into that. But
new watches.
As always, with my co-host, Joe in the OC. Joey, how you doing?
There. Lovely pink shirt.
That's just, we're in Miami. What can I say? If when in Rome.
When in Rome. That's good. So, yeah, man, you've been busy.
This past weekend has been jam-packed with stuff between traveling, lunches, dinners, meetings, events. It has shown me that I could never live the lifestyle of the rich and famous. To have a schedule where everything is planned out and you have to be here and you finish that and you go to this one and you do that, but you have to be at this time and it's got to be done by that time. And then you have to go back and change and be ready for this event at that. And you got to, I could not live that way. I couldn't do it.
I think you by yourself. No, but with a couple of assistants, you'll be fine.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
You can eat and a driver.
Oh, you have to. Let me tell you, the traffic down there. So real quick, we'll get into this whole discussion in a little bit, but our hotel was at most 4 miles from any of the things that we were doing while we were down there. The event itself was Friday evening. It took us 45 minutes to go 4 miles Friday evening Miami traffic.
You realize that I live in Southern California.
No, I get that, but I'm just saying, like the traffic there is ridiculous too. I couldn't do it. I could not live somewhere like that.
That's why you get that scooter thing.
There are a ton of mopeds, a lot of scooters, a lot of bikes. Yeah, for sure. Oh, also, for the keen viewer, I actually have a background again.
Well, for the keen viewer, you'll notice the new fish tank.
And that's the real the real keen viewer.
That's the real news right there. The new fish tank.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what do you got in your wrist? What do you got in the glass?
I've got.
Oh, hold on. Before you start, also the keen viewer, if you haven't already seen it, Joe's got himself a new computer. So if you get a little seasick during this episode, he has an auto tracking camera now on his computer. So every time he makes the slightest move, it thinks that we want to see every bit of detail.
It's centered on my face. It's real. I didn't know it did that either. It was very bizarre. I'm trying to figure out, why is my computer moving?
Now lean forward a little bit. Oh, it's not doing it now. Last time when you leaned forward, it really zoomed in on you, but see, so we'll see how this goes. We might have to figure out how to disable that.
I don't know. As long, they're not watching while they drive, so it's okay. We'll survive.
Hopefully not. You shouldn't
Hopefully
be.
Not. Hopefully
eyes
not.
on the road. Okay. Continue. What you got?
What am I doing?
What's in the glass? You were holding up a minute ago.
Oh, I got a glass. Yeah, I've got. What am I drinking? Is that 7? Yeah, Canadian and Club.
Oh, okay.
Simple, light, refreshing.
There
but we just came back from brunch and I had a Paloma. So hopefully that'll be out of my system before I have to take my statin tonight. So
that was the first drink I drank at dinner down there. Were Palomas.
Paloma,
really good.
Yeah. It's a fun one. And today I am wearing. It's another new watch alert. So my folks are in town. They came in to see the band and to hang out. And I have today. This is my father's Hoyer Atavia. This is the Viceroy that he sent in the cigarette box tops and
That is
paid
the
$88
box tops watch.
to get. This is
$88.
$88.
Man.
Now, that being said, this watch has gone through a life. It's had a busted crystal. It's got a replacement bezel. It's been serviced by Hoyer because the person that he tried to have it serviced in where he lives stole the bezel. So it's a replacement bezel. But this is a single owner watch, and this is a family heirloom watch. And when my son grows into it, this will be his watch. But I get to wear it until then.
But until then, you're going to enjoy the heck out of that.
It's nice. I'm not going to lie. It's nice. It's the same case as the Bulova, that caliber 15, but this has just got the caliber 11 in it.
Okay. Yep.
It's pretty darn nice. It's pretty darn nice. And then
in beautiful condition too.
It's like unpolished, so you can see the scratches from where he fell.
That's really cool. That is one of the watches that you hear the stories about being passed down from generation to generation.
It's going to be one of those.
This is we're seeing, that happening right now.
Yeah. Right.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
It's yeah. Yeah. And he says this needs service because it's dropping time, but I'm doing pretty good right now. So we'll see. We'll let it run. I got a guy. Yeah, that's the goal.
Who's servicing a Hoyer probably as we speak.
Probably. Yeah. And then there's also this. Mike's Yema. Been with me for a week.
Look at that strap. You finally found a good strap for it.
No, I didn't. I don't like this strap at all. The strap is awful.
Well, it's better than that army green one.
No.
Yes.
You are so wrong.
I am not wrong.
Oh no, you're absolutely you were so wrong, because that is a Marine Nationale strap. It's French.
The colors don't match it though.
The yellow is perfect.
Oh gosh. Okay. Listen, we'll get into your thoughts in a minute, and I'm genuinely curious, and I hope everybody else is genuinely curious too, because I'm just going to give a teaser here real quick. Joe told me that the yellow wasn't as bad as he thought it was going to be. But we'll get into that. I have some Grand Marnier. It's been a little bit since I've sipped on this. It's my favorite liqueur drink. And I'm wearing, let me hold it up here, my Lunar Pilot Snoopy, quote unquote.
What you always have that? You never have that on the bracelet.
It's on the bracelet right now.
I know, but you rarely wear it on the bracelet. Most of the pictures are never on the bracelet.
The black dial are rarely on the bracelet. This I always have on the bracelet.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
I like the leather NATO that comes with it, but I prefer it on. Go back on my page. Every picture you see of this is on bracelet, because this bracelet is fantastic. I love this one.
I've got no argument with that. I've got no argument with that at all.
No, this is a bracelet watch all day. My black dial is a strap monster. I'll put it on straps.
See, I only have one strap that I like that on. So,
the black one?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got so many.
I know. But
then again, I experiment with color, and you really don't. So
okay. but the green is bad. All right, that's fine.
that was a bad experiment.
Okay.
Yeah. In fairness, you did have a couple of straps that it was okay on. Like, you were headed in the right direction. It's just,
yeah. You want to argue about the pink strap now?
No. I don't want to argue about the pink strap.
Bring it.
So you've had it for what? The last 2 weeks, almost.
It's been a week and a bit.
A week and a half.
A week and a bit. Yeah. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
One of the first things you told me was, well, the yellow isn't so bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
It's not as bad in person. You're right. It's not as bad in person.
So what are your thoughts? Genuinely curious what you think of that watch.
It's an annoying watch. It annoys the crap out of me. I don't like it.
In what way?
It looks right. It is aesthetically pleasing. You don't like the big eye. The big eye doesn't bother me.
No. I don't like that it's supposed to be a big eye, but you can't tell on that dial.
That doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me
Okay.
at all. I think I like it better than the blue dial. If I'm being honest, I like that. I like that a lot. But the sub dials are so wrong. It's so wrong. Oh my God, it's so wrong.
Okay. Expand.
So you've got the 24-hour sub dial at 3.
Mhm.
And it's slave to the hour hand, so you can't independently set it. So it won't function in any shape like any type of world timer, or you can't use it as a second time zone. Annoying as hell.
Mhm.
Then you got the running seconds at 6. Like, okay, that's fine. But then you end up with the what's supposed to be the yacht timer, but it's and it's a 60-minute, but it needs to be and it's not, and nothing. It just doesn't work, man. It doesn't work. And the pushers only activate that. This is dumb. It's dumb. It shouldn't be this. I think that it's somebody who saw one or saw a picture of one and it's like, oh, it'll be fine. It is nearly as bad, not as bad, but nearly as bad as the day date subdials. I said it. You heard me.
Okay. Now, I agree with you 100%. 100%. It is annoying in its functionality, but like you just said, it is aesthetically pleasing. It's beautiful, beautiful to look at. And if you don't operate that chronograph at all, you never have a problem with it.
No, I have a problem with it.
And the lazy 24-hour subdial, which I have gone on record and said that I absolutely hate that feature, they at least put enough makeup on that pig where it's not that bad and it's not that noticeable that it's a lazy subdial. They decorated it in a way where it's pleasing to look at, although the functionality is poor.
That's the problem. It's like when you have a scratch on the crystal, when you know it's there and you can't not see it. And so that's the problem. I take a look at this, I can't not see it anymore. And once you know that it's no, can't do it.
Okay.
I had it for a week. And then because you sent it to me with 2 straps. I don't like either of them. I put it back on the original strap because I'm not going to deal with it anymore. I put the plastic adhesive right back on top of it. Like it's on there. It's on there right now. I'll show you. You can see
you can see.
Right?
I saw the red line.
There's that little red stripe, so you know that it's there. I'm not. No, this isn't touching me at all.
The case. How did you like the case?
Case is good, but again, the issue is the way that the bezel is, right? Because you've got no loom on the dial with the exception of the hands. And you don't need it if you're in good light conditions because the way that the indices are set and you've got that bevel that's on them, and so they reflect really well. The indices are, they're great, but when you take a look at this watch and you have seen the solar lunar, it's like, man, it's a problem. It's a real problem. Like the vintage ones with the black dial, and it's a similar color scheme but not identical. Those are great. And it works. This one, it should be a solar lunar. It's not. It should have a bunch of other functionality. It doesn't. No, man. It's got to go. And that's why they can't sell them. That's why they're still available.
38.5 millimeter. What did it wear for you? Did it wear that size? It wore bigger.
It wore bigger.
Really?
Like a 40.
Really?
Yeah, to me. Yeah. I mean, the case size is great, but you got so much dial on it. And the other issue for me is like most of my 40s actually that's wrong. My 38s are almost all dive watches. They've all got the bezel on them. So for me, that dial space is so much smaller. So regardless of what the case shape is, the way that the bezel is set up, it makes it wear big.
See, and that's funny because most of my 38s are not dive watches, and I don't have that bezel. So for me, the 38.5 wears smaller.
No kidding. Okay, I get that.
It wears like a 37 for me.
Well, because I've got all of those vintage divers. I've got all of those 666 divers, and so that's my reference point. And so you've got I I don't know,
It's
man.
funny how the way that
It's
we see watches is all relative. You're
oh,
seeing
totally.
this in a totally different way than I'm seeing it, but it's all purely dependent on what we've been used to all these years.
Oh yeah, I don't like it.
You know,
It's going
we're
it's
our
going back to
collection
you.
is in the same size space, right? 38, 39,
Yeah, for the most
but
part.
we see them in two different ways. Yours has the dive bezel on them, mine don't,
Yeah.
and it's funny. Yeah.
It's also, what's your aesthetic? Because I'm doing all of those 666 styled watches. I mean, there's the video that I have, and there's over 50 of them now. So
Hmm.
there's a lot. And they're all in that vintage size, from like 36, 35 even, with the handsome devils. And
Yeah.
that gold oceanographer, that Canadian one,
Hmm.
that's 37 at most. So for me, as soon as if I get into that aesthetic, those cases are so much slimmer, and there's not a chunky bezel on it, and so those are smaller than this, and they wear that way. This one to me just wears big. The white on the dial also, because like all the other ones are dark, so the white is really bright. The case, I mean, it's a good case shape. I'm not gonna argue with the case shape, but I think they should have done something else with it. I don't like it.
Hmm.
I don't like
So
it.
do you think that somebody should buy my white dot element for me?
Yeah, that way I can get rid of it. I don't need it.
Yeah, you're funny.
I
Yeah,
want.
so here's the thing, Yema, like we've talked before, these were an initial run of 250 pieces. They never did sell out. They now got a restock.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
I don't know.
It's a bad move.
I don't know. And here's I'm really conflicted with this watch. I really genuinely am because I don't understand why they did what they did with it. However, I'm glad that they did one in this way and made an affordable yacht timer looking watch.
But no, no, because you're wrong. Because it's not. It's not. It's not.
But you said it. Aesthetically, it's there.
But it's not. As soon as you know what it's supposed to be, it doesn't work, man. It doesn't work. It doesn't
Yep.
work in what it's
But
supposed.
again, like we have said, I'm never going to use it to time the start of a regatta. I'm never going to do that with it.
But I want to.
I want it to look the part, which it does.
It until you know that it doesn't. It's like seeing extra exhaust on the back of a car that isn't
Oh
attached to
gosh,
anything.
not even close.
It's exactly what it is.
Not even close.
It's oh man, I like the list goes on and on and on of things. It's trying so hard to be something that it just isn't. It's like putting a Ferrari label on a Toyota Corolla.
What it is, it's putting a Lamborghini manifold on an LS1 engine and stuffing it into a Miata. And if there's any car guys out there, you'll get a kick out of that one.
I've seen it. I know what you're talking about,
You know what I'm
and
talking about?
I do. I know exactly what you're talking about because Miata is always the answer.
Yeah, but okay, so let's compare it to that car. That car fooled everybody until somebody dug and looked a little bit closer. And if you didn't dig in and look a little bit closer, it looked the part.
I don't even think it's that. I'm sorry. No, I think that would be just throwing a V8 stamp on the back of your Miata, because as soon as you look under the hood, you're wrong. It's not even they haven't even gone that far. No, no, don't like it. Don't like it. It's going back. This watch over promises and under produces. Don't like it.
Hmm. Okay, I'll make you a great deal on it.
Yeah, possession is 9/10 of the law. That's why, but it's still going back to you.
So that's a no
I'll,
from
I'll put
Joe.
I'll mail it COD too.
COD. All
All right.
righty.
So talk about your event. So those of you who don't know, Bulova did their unveiling of the 150th documentary. They premiered it in New York. What, in October, November, no, October,
Um,
September? It's a while ago.
a month or two ago.
It was, and so they premiered it in New York, and it was a big gala event. But they've decided they're going to do two more releases, and so they've done it in a couple other countries, but they're like Bulova local. So they was in Canada and it was down in South America,
Hmm.
but they did it in Miami for the Latin Grammy. So in kind of conjunction with the Latin Grammy stuff, because Bulova is a
Hmm.
sponsor, and then they're going to be doing it in LA, I believe, in January. But
Hmm.
Mike got the invite to go to Miami and he went. So tell us about it.
It was exactly what you would hope a red carpet event would be. You arrive, they have the light set up, they have the banners going, they have the sponsor boards and the artwork and the red carpet, and they have the professional photographers out there, and so you can walk up and do your own pictures, selfies and things like that. But then you kind of move down the line a little bit, and you have the professional photographer there, and then he's snapping all these pictures, and then you walk into the theater. Now in Miami, everything is very close on top of one another, so there's not a lot of footprint space. So everything is vertical there. So you walk into the main lobby, and the staff is there waiting. You're here for the event this evening? Yes. Okay, take the elevators, go up to the fifth floor. So you arrived on the fifth floor, the doors open, a whole host of staff there waiting. Well, can I have your name, sir? You give them your name. Oh, yes. Okay, we have you. You're with the Bulova crowd. Yes. Okay. So they have two different wristbands, two different colors. They had a gold and they had orange. They had so many people RSVP to this event that they had to book two theaters. They ran the screening simultaneously. So
Really?
there were people that were there with Citizen Group and people that were there with Bulova. So
Huh. That's
depending on your
interesting.
your wristband color determined which group you were with and what theater you went into. They get you all checked in. You walk around the corner and it opens up into this big area, and the whole thing was just professionally done. You have waiters and waitresses that are standing there with trays. They got two different types of wine. They're walking around with waters. They have tuna tartars. They have steak kebabs. They have another table in the corner that's all set up with various little finger foods. There's an open bar. It just high top tables all around. And we arrived kind of early. Um, So we're just watching people filter in. Now, here's the thing. The the people within the watch industry that you're going to recognize, the journalists, the YouTubers, the influencers, things like that, are going to pop up in New York and LA.
Yeah.
I had messaged Alex Asfor,
Uh-huh.
who is the artist that's done the Bulova artwork for the last year and a half or so. And he's done a fantastic job with it. He's a South Florida guy.
Uh-huh.
So I messaged him. I said, "Hey, I'm pretty sure you're going. I just want to double check and make sure. Are you going to be at the event?" "Oh yeah, I'll be there." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, I appreciate your work. I don't know how I'm going to find you and pick you out of the crowd, but at some point we'll bump into each other and we'll realize who we are. And I'm looking forward to meeting you." He actually finds me and he says, "Hey, aren't you so?" "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm Alex. I'm the artist." "Oh, great. Nice to meet you." So he and his wife kind of hung out with me and my girlfriend for the evening, and people started coming in, and then the Bulova crowd shows up. So Michael, Richard, Patty, TJ, everybody.
Yeah.
And they
Our
start,
our local luminaries for the podcast.
yeah. So they come in, and the conversations are just going, and it was you can just join in on any conversation and not feel like you were butting in on something that you weren't a part of. Everybody was very welcoming. Everybody was very inclusive. Everybody was just there. There wasn't a lot of what do you got on your wrist? What are you wearing tonight? Where'd you get that from? What's the story behind that? It was just a lot of sharing the experiences of their ties to the brand and why they like the brand and what the brand has done for them and how the brand has influenced them and things like that, more so than what watch you're wearing. So it was a very cool dynamic to see and to be a part of. Prior to the event, Michael carved out some time out of his schedule. He had meetings and Zoom meetings, and he had to go to the local Miami office and do some stuff there. Um, we had about an hour and a half with him. We went up to his hotel, sat up on the pool deck, which was gorgeous views of Miami. It was right overlooking the port. You have all the cruise ships that are there. You have all the yachts that are there, and it's just the buildings around you, and it was just a perfect setting. So we got to sit, talk with him for a little while. After that, Richard Calamares, who we had on not that long ago, we went out to lunch with him and his wife. And Richard, dude, is a riot.
That's awesome.
He is, oh my gosh, he is fantastic. The stories he tells, the conversations that you can have with him. We ordered so much food at that lunch that they actually brought over another table and butted up against where we were to spread out all the food that we had in front of us. It was probably we could have gone out to lunch with Richard and gone home and had just as much fun.
Solid.
So he was fantastic. Michael was fantastic. Having that personal one-on-one time with them, I
Yeah.
think, just kind of elevated the experience a little bit more. It was less of a professional, uptight, shaking hands. Yes, glad you came. Is everything okay? That kind of thing. When I and this is the first time that I met Michael and Richard or anybody from the
Yeah.
offices in person, and it didn't matter who it was. It was hugs all around. It was meeting up with some friends that you haven't seen in a while and
Yeah.
just having a great time with them. And that is what the atmosphere was. That is how the mood was set for the entire day. And it was just fantastic.
Cool. Good for you, man.
The film is really cool. They did it very well. They broke it up kind of into 10 quote unquote chapters. Um, and it goes into the history of Joseph and Artie and how they developed the company and what their ideas were and the space program and how everything ties in there and music, um, the women's rights movements, the racing history. It just covered everything. And there were so many different people that were featured in the film, giving different perspectives. You had collectors in it, you had journalists in it, you had music artists in it, you had NASA employees in it. I mean, there was just it got covered from so many different angles. It told such a great story. It's roughly an hour long. I wish it was 2 hours long because I
Right.
feel like there was so much more that they could have expanded on and made it longer, and you just really wouldn't have gotten bored of it. And if you watch it and you don't learn something from it, I would be absolutely surprised because the takeaway afterwards, they did a little dessert hour, and people were like, I didn't realize that,
Right.
Bulova, and I didn't know. And you know what? I learned something tonight too. And it just affected everybody in such a positive way that it was just fantastic. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. I really, really, really am looking forward to you going when it comes out to LA.
That's
I
the hope.
really am because I
That
know
is the
you're going
hope.
to enjoy it just as much.
It'll be interesting to see what the differences are because LA is an industry town in a different way than Miami is. And
Mhm.
I've got a handle on who may be involved and who will be there. There should be some people I know. So it's going to be interesting. It'll be an interesting event to go in
Well,
and
and
participate in.
it will be different for you in that, like I say, there are certain people in the watch industry that are going to be in LA.
Right.
Where there was a lot of Latin Grammy music related folk that were in attendance, and I don't know who they are. I couldn't pick anybody out. I couldn't tell you their names to save their soul. Um, but it didn't matter, because you just found a way to fit in.
Yeah.
And that was a worry that I had was, well, we're just going to be sitting here talking to ourselves, and it's really not going to be that enjoyable. But it really wasn't. It really wasn't.
Well, that's
And
fantastic. That's
one of Bob
fantastic.
Marley's sons was in attendance. He was there. He had nothing to do with the brand, but
Right.
there was a
He was at the
magazine.
Latin Grammy, so he showed up.
Yeah, and
That's
one of
fun.
his friends is involved with a Living magazine, I think it's called, or Living Lifestyle.
Okay.
And they were involved, and so he was there to support his friend. So he was kind of in the corner a little bit, and he was laughing and having fun, and people were just talking to him. I mean, it's just the camaraderie was just amazing to witness. It was
That's
really,
great.
really cool.
Well,
Yeah.
the part that's been interesting is I'll go with my wife, and she's been trying to figure out, what am I going to wear? What are we going to do? And so we're working on all of that now.
Well, and I'll tell you this, my girlfriend was the same way. She is not. This is her first foray into the crazy watch world, right? And she's definitely wasn't prepared when she met me to be involved in the stuff that I'm involved in, right? At the end of the weekend, she said, wow, she says, I really was nervous and afraid to go to something like this because I felt like I wasn't going to fit in. Um, Her and Richard's wife are relatively from the same area up in New York. And they hit it off like that.
That's
And
awesome.
all through lunch, they were like best friends. So they had somebody throughout the evening. And from that and through the people that I know that are there, she had such a great time without being involved in this in any sort of way,
Right.
coming into this new. So your wife, I feel, is going to have the same experience.
I certainly expect something similar. All right, so
yeah.
let's get into some nuts and bolts.
Okay.
Right. So what watches did you bring?
So we discussed this in length. It
Yes, we
was
did.
very nerve-wracking trying to pick out because first impressions are everything, right? I didn't want to wear anything modern. I originally wanted to wear my Black Dial Super Seville, the vintage version. And I decided against it because my thought was I wanted to show up with something that nobody else was going to have there. So I went with an original Jetstar, the 72A, which is the red and black version of like the Stars and Stripes.
Right.
I had that one on the original bracelet.
Which is a great,
and
that's so good though.
Which is so good.
Yeah.
And I went with, on my right wrist, my 71 wrist alarm, that blue dial.
Yeah.
Which is on original bracelet as well.
Yeah.
And then my girlfriend, I had her wear the Lady O, the compressor style ladies piece.
Which is the most bizarre color combination because it's got the red or the red internal bezel, but it's got a blue.
Well, it's a red and white internal bezel. It's a blue sunburst dial, orange lume. It's just
and then
fantastic in every way.
Corfam inserts on the bracelet are those blue also?
A blue Corfam inserts.
It's so weird.
And I told her, I said, first thing, I said, this is a very rare and very expensive watch. I said, so you need to be aware that you have it on your wrist at all times. She's like, well, that doesn't make me feel any better.
Oh, you dick. Wow.
So
you did that? Really? You did that she and I have to talk now. Wow.
But I told her, I said, because of what this is, people are going to want to know and people are going to want to see it. It was photographed. It was noted. It went over so well. The wrist alarm was a hit. The Jetstar was fantastic. So when you go, wear something that you're sure is not going to show up there on somebody else's wrist.
I got a couple.
Stay away from the modern stuff.
It's always a debate. It's that the rotation is deep, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We'll discuss. We'll discuss as we get closer. All right. So you had some meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you can disclose?
So Michael, he has the gift of gab.
He does.
And Patty
And
wasn't there to restrict him.
He has no filter, and he didn't have any minders with him to tell him not to say that.
Patty wasn't there on the pool deck with us.
Right. So
to
that means
censor him.
Now
we discussed.
let's not break any embargoes. Let's not violate any trusts. However,
we discussed the tuning fork movement, which has been brought up several times. We know that it's moving forward. He talked a little bit more in depth about what it's going to be, and be ready if you are a Accutron tuning fork fanatic. Be ready, because this is going to be a fantastic movement. They still have some more testing to do with it, but it is coming, and it's going to be fantastic. So,
I am so mad you got all of this. Oh my god! All right,
we discussed Caravel.
Okay, Caravel.
Some cool stuff coming down the pipe from Caravel. We have talked Caravel with them. It seems like every time we have somebody new from a different department from Bulova, we always push Caravel. When are we going to see new stuff from Caravel? Are we going to bring back some old stuff from Caravel? What are we doing with Caravel?
If we're going to be honest, like, you and I both love Caravel, but a lot of this is from Oliver. It's from our friends Watches with Oliver on Instagram, and has his own channel. And he is a Caravel fanatic. He does transistorized stuff, and he pushes Caravel whenever he speaks to both of us. Although he has decided to start collecting Frederic Constant, and I just want to make sure that we drive that nail in a little bit more, because I know he watches and he's going to see this.
I know. He's left us behind.
He is
in
part
that
of the
rarefied
impetus.
air.
He is part of the impetus on Caravel and wanting to know more about Caravel. So there's Caravel news.
Caravel, new things are happening. I won't get into what specifically, but new things are happening. Really cool. Some information that I found out. I had sold a watch a while ago.
Right.
And through a series of events, that watch has made its way into the hands of the Caravel designer, who loved the watch so much that I would not be surprised if we see maybe not a reissue, but a modern interpretation of what that watch was.
All right. Now, with that being in mind, I also sent some Caravel watches to the Bulova offices, and I don't know that I would be surprised if we didn't see a reinterpretation of some of those.
Yeah.
So
that said,
if you are a fan of the show, you might have an idea of what we're talking about. And if you're not a fan of the show, I suggest you go back and check out our back catalog, and then you will know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's there is Caravel news. Cool things are happening. Good things come to those who wait, is what I'll leave that as.
I've been waiting a long time. Just going to say.
We have been waiting a long time.
All right. Now, let's talk precisionist.
Okay.
Because if we're talking, so we've got the electrostatic movement, and there's not a whole lot that can be done with that. The electrostatic movement cannot go smaller. It's already a relatively big watch, but let's face it, it is still the smallest production electrostatic generator known to man, full stop. So that watch is phenomenal. And we had Richard on, and he was speaking about that specifically, and the fact that those are going to be limited production, limited editions. And if you get the chance to buy one, you see one you like, get it now. The Hudson whiskey collab has just come out. I'm sure there's going to be some other stuff coming out throughout the year. So electrostatic is kind of done, but Bulova has the precisionist movement. It's proprietary. It is its own thing. And I know that you had a little conversation about that. So let's talk precisionist.
So precisionist did come up in conversation. I was asked to throw some ideas out there of where the precisionist can head. Um, I know that, and we talked the Jetstar and really the three new precisionists is the Jetstar, the Super Seville, and the Marine Star. And the Super Seville aside, 40 millimeters is about the average case size for the other two right now,
Right.
which is phenomenal for the precisionist movement because it came from such a large watch. And
True.
they designed it or redesigned it, however you want to put it, and shrunk it down, and now are able to put it into something that I don't want to say is more usable size because there is a market for the icon. And we were talking about this with Michael, and he says the icon sells extremely well still.
It is such a big watch, but it's almost like 45, and it's got that.
I think it's bigger
four,
than that.
It's got those 4 subdials. I mean, it's a hefty watch, and I can remember because we were having a conversation about it recently that I had the Wilton Precisionist chronograph. Like, it was an amazing watch, but it was so damn big.
Mhm.
45 on my wrist, really tall, had the same kind of bezel that the Yema does. So like it wore just huge. It was a huge watch, and I had to let it go because it didn't get enough wrist time. But that movement was just phenomenal in terms of what it was.
So the precisionist is now plus minus 10 seconds per year.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
And it's not high accuracy, of course, because it's not thermocompensated. But I know
It's not
that
thermally to get those not thermally compensated at the price point that they're at is just phenomenal.
and when you the anecdotal stuff, talking to some of the HAQ guys that I know on forums and some other spaces, they've got watches that are performing well within the HAQ parameters without it being thermal compensated. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts for what those watches are, what they're available for, what the price point is, what you can do with them. It's like the fact that they have just started to really delve into using that movement more and putting it in a more accessible, and we can call it a more attractive package. I think it's just like it's like
safe, yeah.
It's just a no-brainer.
I think seeing the precisionist with more functionality is definitely something that can very much be on the table for future comings. They are very excited that they have this as a platform, and now to expand on, they'd almost be crazy not to.
Okay, so your Super Seville, how thick is that? It's not much, right? A little bit over 10?
Give or take. I don't remember the exact specs, but right around that 10 millimeter.
Yeah, and I know, but that's with the crystal. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
not a thick watch by any
No,
measure.
it wears so well. It wears so well.
It's the same thing with the Jetstar. The Jetstar is not a thick watch either. So like, it would be interesting to see if they do a complication, how they build that into the movement. If it becomes a module, or if it becomes built into the movement itself.
Well, and that's what I was thinking too. And I don't see them. To me, Miyota doesn't half-ass anything. Like if they're going to design something, they're designing it from scratch, and they have shown that
Right.
time and time again. So I don't see these being a precisionist with a module. Maybe I don't know, but I see them developing something specific for whatever functionality they're trying to design it for.
You're just putting it in the
So
movement.
I think you'll still get that thin movement and being able to have an aesthetically pleasing watch with additional functionality and not lose that
That's a
dimension.
real intriguing idea. That's a really, really intriguing
But
idea.
then again, I'm not a designer, and maybe when you do add functionality and you have another layer of gears or something, it does add. I really don't know, but
Yeah.
for them to not utilize this platform in another way
Yeah, I agree.
They have to. They really do.
I agree. All right. That's kind of
So
it, right? That's
yeah,
all the watch news that's sort of fit to print.
that's as vague as I can get without having somebody here to thumbs up or thumbs down what we're talking about. Um, but as a whole, 150th anniversary releases for next year are going to be really cool. Future offerings, just in general, are going to be really cool.
Yeah.
This is a brand that when Michael took over in 2016, it really started to turn around for the better. He's really changed the brand in how they're being marketed, what they're producing, the sizes that they're producing it in, the direction that it's heading. He's done a fantastic job with that. Now, I believe that this is the time we're going to start reaping the benefits of all the work that he's put in. He has steered the ship in the
Yeah.
right direction, and they are going to be a brand that you really have to pay attention to because they are going to be doing some really, really cool stuff. Oh,
It's been a 10-year journey. Yeah.
the Accutron Astronaut Titanium, the LTI.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I got hands on with that. That Michael was wearing that, and I said, "Oh, you've got to let me see it." So here's what I will say about that watch. For those that have owned or currently own an original astronaut, you will notice right away the size difference. The modern astronauts are a couple millimeters larger, but they're not ridiculously large, right? They still wear very well. If you are somebody who's never seen in person or never owned an original astronaut, the difference is negligible. You won't know, and it'll wear really well to you. This one is my favorite release of the year because it's more,
And the year's not over yet, just saying.
and the year's not over yet. Yeah, it's the more readily, I don't want to say readily available or accessible, but it is the model that you see more often in the wild. That quote unquote steel
Yeah, I
bezel.
mean, so the T, which was their initial release, and it's that day-night bezel. Those are so hard to find, and
They're
they've
very
been
rare. They're
faked
very
to a
hard. Yeah.
certain degree. So that's a I mean, it's a more desirable watch. I'm not going to lie, but
Mhm.
the TI, right, which is the titanium version that you were talking about, that's the champagne dial. It's the steel
Mhm.
bezel. It's a like the only thing that might be more iconic is a copy of the one that you've got, which is the black dial. And then you've also got the question of, okay, is it the hand, what handset, blah 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 blah. There's all these other weird options.
So it has the alpha handset. It has the thicker seconds hand.
Yeah,
If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. It's not the stick hand. It's the one that kind of flares out a little bit in the middle and then comes back down again at the
yeah,
end.
more like a leaf.
Yeah. The L dial layout, but they call it the LTI because it is entirely titanium. And let me tell you, so the one Michael had was on when you buy that watch, it comes with a NATO strap and it comes with the bullet bracelet. He had it on the NATO strap, so it's going to be a little lighter without the bracelet on it,
Yeah,
but it was feather light, very light. But the finishing on it, the quality of that watch is well worth the price tag for it.
okay.
Yeah, it was really cool. I was
Did
really glad
do
I
you
got
have
to
an
see
idea
that
of
one.
what was the price going to be? I don't even know.
They're for sale. They're out there now. You can go on the website. I think the titanium is 3,000, and then they have the regular production, the T variation with the different colored dials are a little bit less because those are steel, not titanium. Um, but and they're not limited production either.
Yeah,
So you can get these. So,
yeah,
but if you're an astronaut guy, take a look at it because it's a cool companion piece if you have one or if you have a large collection of astronauts. This is one I think you're going to want in your collection. If you're not an astronaut guy and you want one, and you want something modern and arguably more reliable because it is a mechanical movement. It is not a tuning fork movement. It's not a quartz movement. It's not a precisionist movement. It's the new. This is the first one that has their proprietary Accutron developed. They're calling it a 9058, which my guess is just a step above the Miyota 9054, I think it is. It's being made by Miyota, but it's
Right.
specifically for that watch for Accutron.
This is gonna be a question because there's the 800 series GMT that's in the oceanographer, the double diver that I've got, that GMT. So it's a different version of that. So it is the same version that's in the Wilton GMT also. So is it an independent hour hand because the original is not, all that kind of stuff. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun to mess around with.
So that actually is something that I can't answer because I didn't have enough time with it to play with it, and I didn't want to change his time and all that kind of stuff because he was throwing it back on to go to a meeting, and the last thing I wanted
his watch, right?
is be responsible for him being late to a meeting because I fiddled with the time.
Right.
So
talk about watch etiquette, faux pas.
Yeah, right.
That's funny.
But it's really cool. Now, for those of you that know, right, it's a mechanical watch. It has to have a crown. It does have a 3 o'clock crown. However, the crown for me is so thin and it hides under the bezel so well that unless you really turn your wrist and look at it from the side, you don't even notice that it's there. Now, I know you have a different take, and you're not as pleased with it.
I handled one of the T's when they first came out, and I actually had it with my astronaut that's now your astronaut.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference is stark, but you have to have held one of the vintage ones in order for it to make sense. Like in terms of comparison, it's smaller, it's lighter, and then it's got that back set because it's a 214 movement. So for me, having had the vintage, it would be curious for me to see one now. I'd be interested in seeing one now since you had that watch for well over a year. So I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Yeah. So I like it. I feel like when it comes to reissues, I find myself a little bit more open-minded to the reinterpretations. I think it's really well done. I really do. So that's my take on that one.
All right. Well then, kind of moving on to maybe not last calls, but close to last calls.
Close to it.
We teased this, like the GPHG winners were announced.
Yeah, earlier this week too, I believe.
We did an episode where we put in our picks.
Mm-hmm.
We did not do well in our picks.
One of us did.
Well, yeah.
Any guest listeners who did better than the other? So we did, just to recap it, if you didn't listen to the last episode, Joe picked a category, I picked a category, and then between the two of us, we picked a category. And within those three, we each made a pick. And the fun of it was we'll see when the winners are announced, what the judges thought.
we weren't even looking, we were looking at like what the potential nominees were. It wasn't,
and that's true. We did this before they even narrowed down the pool.
Right. So we were pre all of that. So we start with like the challenge. The challenge is
the challenge is the one that we kind of picked together.
Yeah, Atsuko Latek number 6, which it's a retrograde. It's kind of interesting. I don't like retrogrades.
It's a double retrograde with a date complication and a seconds disc.
Yeah, I like it.
Like it makes zero sense.
No.
And there's no color palette. It is extremely gray tone.
Yes.
Like I don't get it. Okay, so moving on.
So there was you had artistic crafts, right?
I had artistic crafts.
And so the winner for that was the Van Cleef and Arpels.
The Van Cleef and Arpels, what do they call it? The Jour Enchanté, the ladies' piece.
It's a beautiful cloisonné dial. It's it's well
It
done. It's a good
it
execution.
is pretty. I will say that. Clearly,
Yeah.
it wasn't either one of our picks, but it
No.
is a nice watch. I can understand why this one won.
Yeah.
The Otsuka, I don't get that one.
No.
So then we get to the iconic category.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember what you picked for this one?
No.
You picked the new Kith Hoyer.
Oh, that's right. I did pick the
Yeah.
Hoyer.
And I
Which
picked
didn't make it into the nominees, did it?
I don't even think it made it past
It didn't.
the next round.
And
Which is surprising because and if you remember, my argument too was that was a fantastically iconic watch. It really truly
100%.
was.
I don't disagree with it at all. The Kith, I think it was the Kith labeling that threw people off. And initially, right, my initial attraction to that whole category was the Hublot. And it was that small Hublot, which was like a ladies' piece, which I still think is great. I think it's an excellent watch.
And I don't get that one. And then I picked the Piaget Polo.
The reissue.
So
the 79.
That leaves us with neither one of us won the challenge category. Neither one of us won the artistic category.
Correct.
One of us won the iconic category.
Yes.
Okay, so who won?
Well, since mine didn't even make it into the balloting.
That is right. That is right. I picked correctly. The Piaget Polo 79 won the iconic category. And I really believe, while I'm not a huge fan of that watch and I would never wear it, if you look at it from a broader perspective, that really is a truly iconic watch.
It is. I'm not going to argue with that. I think that most of the watches in that category, they'll fall into that same space. And if I'm being honest, that's not the Polo that I like. I prefer the more Genta design that came a little bit later. There's some other variations of the Polo that I prefer better than that 79. But I'm not they did not consult me. I was not brought into the panel and part of the jury. So
you have to find a way to get yourself on there.
I think I'm probably okay.
And then your opinion might matter. Because really, if we're honest, here at the Springbar, it doesn't.
Oh, that's awesome. You got any other last call? You got anything else? Are we done?
Gosh, do I have a last call? I don't think that I do.
Oh.
Do you?
No.
What do you got going on with your parents? How long are they in town for?
They're in town for a week. They came in to see my band. We had our semifinals last night. I don't know if we're moving on to finals because the way they figure that out is weird and we're on pins and needles and I have to go to the grocery store. So life proceeds apace. And at some point I will know if I'm performing next weekend or not.
Alrighty then.
There you go.
So they're not there for Thanksgiving? They're leaving beforehand?
Nope,
then?
they're leaving on Friday.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanksgiving plans? You got anything coming up?
Considering that I don't know what I'm doing next Friday, I'm really not ready to think about what's happening in a fortnight.
It's a good thing that Thanksgiving is on a Thursday then.
It's true, but it's still just be satisfied that I use Fortnite properly.
I wouldn't even know if you did or didn't. So
see, and my opinion doesn't matter. Okay.
Well, that's not opinion. That's just ignorance.
Semantics.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Oh, there we are. Okay, so how do we get in touch, Mike?
Well, today, Joe, you and I, we make up the Springbar Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at the Springbar Podcast. You can email us, thespringbarpodcast@gmail.com. On a personal level, I am 120 clicks, all spelled out, one long word, 120 clicks. Joe?
I am Watch Taylor Youth, EUPH, all one word. That's it. So
that's it. I have posted, if you haven't seen it already, some photos and a short little video that I put together of the Bulova celebration. So if you're interested in seeing what that looks like, head over to my personal page and it'll be in there. You can kind of get a little bit of an idea of what it was all about. So,
and then also we're going to be publishing that review of the Yema and that's coming out eventually.
That is right. We're doing that together. You
Yeah.
kind of gave me your thoughts in writing, and I have some written down. We're going to combine that, and then we'll do some sort of a recording together, and
Mini
hopefully
review of that.
sooner rather than later, I'll find some time and get that put together. So
There you go. All right.
alrighty. Well,
I'm
until
out.
next time, and I've been talking so much, given all the information that I've absorbed over the weekend, that I didn't
had
even
nothing,
absorb
right?
all my alcohol.
I was putting together for both of us.
So I want to keep drinking until next episode.
There you go.
Cheers.
Cheers.